At the last minute, Brian Wang had to bail on me tonight. It was a pretty good reason. I won't go into the details. And, he said, but he can provide me with what he would have said, sort of, at least the things that were on his mind. So I've got all that. And if I'd really been clever, I would have taken a picture of Brian. I would have put him in one of those animators. I would have fed all the content into the animator and had Brian actually, the animation speak the words. But I've never tried that before. I have no idea how complicated it is. So that is not going to happen tonight. But we're going to cover some super interesting stuff. And the first one on the list here is Tesla Chan says, China media news when Giga Shanghai's his expansion is completed in 2025, it will have an annual production capacity over 2 million units, making it the world's largest EV production base and is expected to account for about 65% of Tesla's global production capacity. Okay, so I read that, and Brian and I have been going back and forth about that, and it's like, what? Okay, now you've followed the channel for a long time. If you have been, you know that they have just announced that the Model YL has a much faster throughput. We know that the Cybercab is going to have a super fast throughput, maybe one every 5 seconds, and the amount of floor space that it takes is far less. We know that about, what was that, a year ago, 8 months ago, I don't know, they told us that the Model Y, at least, and maybe the Model 3 too, that they had improved the throughput on both of those vehicles, I think down, I want to say it was 30 seconds. And that should have, made additional throughput. And at the time, Brian and I discussed it, and Brian said, well, that could end up creating more floor space. So if you don't need as much, if you can get the cars through faster, you may be able to reduce the footprint of those lines. And so at that time, we thought, well, maybe that amount of footprint that will be made available might make the space that's needed for Cybercab. Well, then along comes the Model YL, and it's a huge hit. And last week they shipped 4,000. You know what? I forgot to look how much they shipped this week. I got to go back and check that out. But they shipped well, that's right. We're not really going to know. Well, yeah, maybe. Anyway, I'll go back and check it. And so that's a lot. And so is that taking away from other production, et cetera, et cetera? That's a lot of questions that we don't have the answers to. But my question is, did they add footprint? Did they somehow add another floor or go down, make a basement? Did they expand the walls out? Is there other buildings in the area that are taking some of the load off of the primary factory? But it says, if we read, and it can't be sure that this China media news got it right, is the expansion is completed. So there's a very specific thing that has been ongoing, and it's going to result in an overall expansion. And then it's going to allow them to do 2 million units a year. Well, the capacity for Shanghai, Brian and I have believed for a long time, is between 1 million, 1.1 million, because they've had 90,000 months, and that suggests that they, could potentially get it up to 2 million, to 1 million, 1 million one. But this is not 1 million or 1 million one. This is 2 million. So my theory, I'll just tell you my theory, I think it's going to be around maybe even half of that is going to be cybercabs. So, and I don't know how nobody knows about this or how this is the first time we're hearing about it. I'd love to know more. Maybe Elon will talk about it at the meeting. We'll see. Anyway, Ryan says, I think it is the increased number of new robots that lets them do parts of what they were patenting for in the unboxing process. So he thinks part of this expansion, it has to do with the way the bots are going to operate, the humanoids. He says there is no indication of additional hiring of a lot more staff, which would mean most of the extreme claims of doubling are not true, or the previous VP Lars's statements of getting to 1.5 million capacity from faster lines were not true. So we have to believe those are true. But there's been no change in production in 2 years. So something is going on there with regard to, I think, probably more or less a realignment. You can sometimes get a lot more out of the same space. Anyway, we really don't know, but we'd love to know. He goes on to say they could have densified and removed some inefficiency, but they could have done it where they save 30 to 50% of the space, and then would use that space for more compact lines that are also more automated. So that's kind of what I've been saying. So that's roughly where he is right now. He says in order to believe it, though, we'd have to see, getting the numbers up to like 25,000 a week or 100,000 in a month just to give you, some increase because we've had 90,000 months. So we'd like to see something, tangible that would suggest they're really actually getting some utilization out of this production. Now, maybe it will be next year. Maybe they're saying this whole changeover, whatever it is going to be done at the end of 2025. So we may have to wait till the first quarter. He says, but unboxed is such a huge deal. They talked about doing some of it. Some of it would be 30% denser and 30% faster with more production. So that's one way that you could do it. He says now on the other side of the coin, they've been shipping or manufacturing so little in Texas and Berlin, only 100,000 cars made in 178 days in Texas because they just announced they were at 500,000 cars, and you can go back and look at 178 days ago, they were at 400,000 cars. So he says they must be, most of the staff and space must be being picked up for, starting to produce the Cybercab. He says to keep these numbers this flat for this long and to see Texas and Berlin making no progress for about 2 years, I'd have to think that Elon went all in on Unbox for Cybercab in Texas. And that's where he thinks we are. All right. So the next story is also, he says there's still nothing about the 4680. And if you watch the program all the time, you know that a couple of weeks ago, I talked to Brian White, and I said that would be maybe my number 3 or 4 question if I was able to list the questions for the upcoming meeting. And what about the 4680? So he says, let's see. Whoops, I've lost it here a little bit. Um, oh, nuts. Let's see. Because Joe Tegmeyer, okay. So, yeah, also, this was actually a quote. Also, still nothing more on the 4680. That was a quote from the limiting factor, Jordan Giesecke. Joe Tegmeyer responded to it. He says, I stopped by the Tesla lithium plant near Corpus Christi today, and wow, the cranes are almost all gone. The superstructure looks nearly completed, and the site has a cleaned up look to it, and there were signs of production activity. And Jordan comes back and he says, I have a feeling that the fully dry 4680, the lithium plant, and the cathode plant are all going to be ramping in unison. So maybe that's what's been going on all along. They decided to wait for the lithium plant. I don't know, but that's what Jordan and Joe Tegmeyer are talking about. Also, it says, see, there was also talk today of the four-seater, a smaller, I guess, four-seater car being made in Asia, being made in Shanghai. Where are they going to make that? I guess it could be on the same lines as either the Model 3 or the Model Y. If you watched the program just a little while ago, I had Jeff Lutz back on, and Jeff was talking about it and saying that he definitely thinks they're going to make a smaller four-seater or a smaller car. He says it would be so easy to make, no capex involved. So maybe that's what's going to happen. But then there was some part of the rumor was there won't be a steering wheel on this one either. So we'll see about all that. Also today was the appeal at the Delaware courts, and we got to, it was all televised and videotaped or whatever, and many, many, many in the community were chiming in on what they heard, and everybody's very excited. I mean, everybody that got to watch a little bit of it thinks, you know what? Seems like maybe Delaware will overturn in our favor, which would save, according to Brian, it would save us $30 billion. Save somebody, maybe Elon, 30 billion in tax. I'm not sure. Maybe Tesla. Anyway, and then we also had 14.1.2. is coming out later today, maybe even while I was preparing this. 14.1.2 has started to go out. I think just to the early folks again, but it promises a feature that everybody has been waiting for. That was the promise in the text about in the tweet, the posting on X about it. And so then everybody's like, well, I wonder what the feature is. What about the thing that everybody's been waiting for? Less snag. Yeah, that would be the best one. Yes. This on the AI front, we've got, let's see here. It was from Sundar Pichai. I'm not sure. PK. Anyway, the CEO. I think the CEO of Google. No, of Google. Yeah, Google. He says an exciting milestone for AI and science. Our C2S scale 27B foundation model built with Yale and based on Gemma, generated a novel hypothesis, a novel, this is the part that matters, a novel hypothesis about cancer cellular behavior, which scientists experimentally validated in living cells. He goes on to say, with more preclinical and clinical tests, the discovery may reveal a promising new pathway for developing therapies to fight cancer. Okay, there you go. What we're talking about for the future here and the stuff that's going to happen, and is very close to happening, having it come up with a novel hypothesis that's already been tested and turned out to be something valuable, that is pretty exciting. Oh, we go back to Brian again. I got this stuff a little bit out of order. So he's talking about FSD 14.2. He says, I think the China rumors are not quite as immediate. Let's see. If we have, no, that's all the same stuff. Okay, so anyway, 14.2, he thinks 14.2 will be out shortly. I wouldn't disagree with him, although I think maybe the first rollout, broad rollout might be this 14.1.2, and then 14.2, that is what might come a couple of weeks later. Let's see. Is that Oh yes, of course, the rumors of a huge bot scaling. We talked about that earlier today in 2026. He says he's wondering if Elon will tell us anything about that potentially big scaling coming up in the first quarter. And he says he's noticed that there is a huge amount of Tesla call activity for the end of 2026 and into 2027 at the $900 level, $100 million in bets. That is a serious number of folks that believe we're going to be at 900 by the end of 2026. Of course, I think it's going to be double that. Okay, let's see. Where are we then with regard to Tesla here in the after hours? Well, we're losing back a little bit of what we gained in the daytime. So we were at 435. We're now back down to 433.90. So we've lost $1.34, but who knows what will happen by tomorrow. A lot of volatility. It's kind of Tesla equals volatility. Yeah. Okay, what else have we got? Let's go ahead. The bonds are doing wonderful. Here we go. We've got the bonds down 2.3 in the pre-market after being up slightly today. So we're sitting at 4.022. We've been right above 4 now for a couple of days. I'd love to see, how much I want it to go to 399, 398. I don't care. Well, I want it to go to 375, but first goal, get it under 4. And that, of course, is my target for the end of the month. We have got oil up a little bit again, 51 cents, but we're still under 60. Natural gas up 70 cents, back up to $3.04. I guess it must have fallen. I didn't notice that it had gone under. No, I'm sorry, that's 21 cents, 2.1 cents. I looked at it wrong. It's late in the day. I looked at it wrong. It's up 2 cents. Okay, $3.04. We got gold. There's no limit. It's going to go to 17,000 or something. It's up $32.50 at 4,234. Silver also up 2.14, a lot more than gold in terms of percentage, as it has been doing all year, $52.45. And copper down a little bit, down to about 3 cents to just under $5, though, back under $5. All right, then we've got the dollars mixed, and we've got I have not looked into the dollar yet. I will do it. Bitcoin 110,915 down 1969 for the day. So I don't think it's been under 111 for quite a while. And Ethereum is down 2.78, down even more than Bitcoin at 3,996, so just under 4,000. And the futures for tomorrow, a little bit up on NASDAQ, 0.66, actually quite nicely up on NASDAQ, 0.66. S&P up 0.40, and the Dow Jones down 0.04. Yeah, still sitting about 1% though, under all-time highs for the NASDAQ and the S&P. I just looked at everything completely wrong. I apologize. I don't have time tonight to go back and take this out. So let me just do this over again. All three are slightly up tonight. 0.09 for the Dow, zero point zero 0.00, up 0.00, actually, and then zero point zero 0.06 for the NASDAQ. My other statement is correct. No, it's not. It's actually, we're now over 67 again on the S&P, 67.1475. So we are now more like a half a percentage away. And so we are getting really, really close to all-time highs on the equities again. All right. So now what you're going to do is, if you have more time, you absolutely want to go back and watch the show that I did with Jeff Lutz a little while ago. It was just an amazing show. I mean, it's just, sometimes you're just doing the show and you're like, oh my gosh, well, that was that kind of show. So I'm going to put the card up here for you to go and check that out. And then tomorrow, normal day. Yeah, I think we'll have everything normal tomorrow with Bradford Ferguson and then Cern Basher in the evening. That's all I got for you right now. It's been great talking to you.